Do you feel that yourself?
Thematically, I've always dealt with isolation in everything I've written, I think. So it's something that triggers me off. It always makes me interested in a new project if it has anything to do with alienation or isolation.
Do you feel isolated, though?
Not really, but I can quite imagine how it must feel to be isolated. So I have often put myself in circumstances and in positions where I am isolated just so that I can write about it.
Before Apollo 11, before the people of Earth walked on the moon, before we were sure if they'd ever come back, David Bowie writes an anthem, not only for characters, but the real-life people who send themselves off into space in the pursuit of science and to benefit mankind. For every person who feels that cold, chilling reality that we are all floating in space, his music that speaks of isolation has the opposite effect of bringing people together in solidarity. One very powerful example of this is astronaut Chris Hadfield performing a cover in space and having his son Evan work with him on the project.
This is way better than I thought it was going to be. This is a really cool audio version of the song, and we should try and do something with it. And then my son Evan said, "Dad, it's got to be video. You're on a spaceship. You got to make a video of it."
A beautiful story about a son staying connected to his father, even though he was as far away as he could be, using this song. In that same interview, Chris Hadfield actually did say he had reservations about doing the cover.
I've never covered a Bowie tune in my life before I left Earth. Covering Bowie, right. It's ridiculous. It's just outrageous. I'm going to cover Bowie, yeah, right. Then I'll do some ELO and Bach while I'm at it.
Imagine the humility it takes for a hero of science and exploration who has done things most human beings on this planet are not brave enough to do. To think that this song was outside of his own ability. That tells me two things. Chris Hadfield is a legend who performed the song beautifully, and David Bowie wrote one of the best songs to ever come out of our little planet. Though many think Bowie was inspired by the fact that we were in the middle of the space race, which makes sense, Bowie maintains that his muse for the song was actually Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey.
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
In England, it was always presumed that it was written about the space landing because it kind of came to prominence around the same time. But it actually wasn't. It was written because I was going to see the film 2001, which I found amazing. I was out of my gourd anyway. I was very stoned when I went to see it several times, and it was really a revelation to me. It got the song flowing. It was picked up by the British television and used as the background music for the landing itself. I'm sure they really weren't listening to the lyrics at all. It wasn't a pleasant thing to juxtapose against a moon landing. Of course, I was overjoyed that they did. Obviously, some BBC official said, "Oh, right then, that space song, Major Tom, blah, 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 that'll be great. But he gets stranded in space, sir." Nobody had the heart to tell the producer that. And the influence of the movie Space Odyssey can be heard in the music, not just in the lyrics. The song, Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Richard Strauss, which is used heavily in the movie, had a long and slow-growing crescendo in its beginning, kind of like a slow humming bass tone that grows nearer. Bowie, being inspired by the movie, also creates this effect in his song's opening, slowly coming in acoustically from what one could imagine is space itself. 5 days after the song was released, Apollo 11 was launched, and 5 days after that, a human walked on the moon for the first time. Humans seem to need so many different things to help us imagine where we can go as a people. We turn to science, we turn to exploration. David Bowie turned to music.
The